Hello everyone. In this session, I'll explain how analog to digital conversion will take place. So while converting analog to digital, either we can have the input as analog signal and we need to convert in the transmission medium the information, that is analog signal is converted as digital. For this reason, the tendency today is to change an analog signal to the digital data. In this session, we describe two techniques by which we can convert analog to digital data. So the first method is PCM, it's also called as pulse code modulation, and the second method is delta modulation. But in our syllabus, only pulse code modulation is included. So we'll take what exactly it consisting of, that is PCM consisting of 3 steps to digitize an analog signal. The first method is sampling, the second step is quantization and binary encoding. So before we sample, we have to filter the signal to limit the maximum frequency of the signal as it affects the sampling rate. Filtering should ensure that we do not distort the signal. So after filtering, the signal, it will not be distorted. That is, remove high frequency component that affects the signal shape. So after filtering also, if you are removing the high frequency component, it may change the actual signal shape. So how to avoid that? That means the filtering should ensure that we do not distort the actual signal. So these are the components of PCM. So here we can observe that the analog signal is given as input, and this is nothing but the PCM encoder, and the final data is the digital data. So within the PCM encoder block, we can observe that there is a 3 process step. That is, the first step is sampling, after that the quantization, and the last one is encoding. So the PAM signal is nothing but pulse amplitude modulation signal. So first we'll take what is the meaning of sampling. The given analog input signal is sampled every TS seconds. So that means the TS is referred to as the sampling interval, and we can compute the sampling frequency is reciprocal of the sampling interval, that is TS. So that means the sampling frequency is equal to Fs, that is equal to 1 by Tf. There are 3 sampling methods by which we can sample the given analog signal. The first method is ideal sampling, the second method is natural sampling, the last one is flat top. So in the case of ideal sampling, an impulse at each sampling instant will be taken. In the case of natural sampling, the pulse of short width with varying amplitude is taken. The last one, that is flat top, is similar to sample and hold circuit like natural but with single amplitude value. The process is referred to as pulse amplitude modulation or PAM, and the outcome is a signal with analog, that means the non-integer value. So this diagram shows different sampling methods for PCM. The first one is ideal sampling, the second one is natural sampling, and the last one is flat top sampling. According to Nyquist's theorem, the sampling rate must be at least 2 times the highest frequency contained in the signal. So for example, for low pass signal or else the band pass signal, as per Nyquist theorem, the Nyquist rate is equal to 2 times the maximum frequency, that is F max. So recovery of sampled sine wave for different sampling rate. So if you are having the Nyquist rate sampling, that is Fs is equal to 2 times the maximum frequency, that is F. So each signal, each sine wave, that means single sine wave, it will be sampled twice. So this is one case and this is other case. Similarly for oversampling, so if you are oversampled the signal, that is Fs is equal to 4 times F, So we have to sample at 4 times. That means within the single sampling, that is within the single cycle, we have to sample 4 times. So the last one is undersampling Fs is equal to F. So for one particular signal, we'll sample once. So sampling of clock with only one hand. So we can observe that the Nyquist rate Ts is equal to T by 2. Oversampling Ts is equal to T by 4. Undersampling Ts is equal to T into 3 by 4. Quantization. After sampling result in a series of pulses of varying amplitude values ranging between two limits. So after sampling occurs, we'll be having two values. One is at the lower limit, that is minimum value, and the other one is at the maximum limit, that is upper value. The amplitude values are finite between the two limits. We need to map the infinite amplitude value onto a finite set of known values. So now what we are doing is, in the quantization, I'll take max and minimum value and I'll try to map my infinite set of values into finite set of values. So this is achieved by dividing the distance between minimum and maximum into L zones. So each L zones, I'll divide the distance between max and min into different zones, and how many number of zones we are having, L number of zones we are having, and I'll compute the height delta is equal to max minus min by L. So maximum value to the minimum value, what is the distance, and divided by the number of zones, that is L. So next is quantization level. The midpoint of each zone is assigned a value from 0 to L minus 1, resulting in L values. Suppose if I need to consider from 0 till L, I'll be having L minus 1 points. Each sample falling in a zone is then approximated to the value of the midpoint. So for example, if you're having V minimum is equal to minus 12 and V max is equal to plus 12, we want to use the level L or zone L is equal to 8 as quantization level. Zone width delta is equal to 20 minus of minus, that is 40 by 8, so that is equal to 5. So we can define different zones with this particular height, that is 5. Assigning codes to the zone. The next step is we have to assign some codes to individual zone. That means each zone is then assigned to a binary code. The number of bits required to encode the zone or number of bits per sample, as it is commonly referred to as NB is equal to log 2 to the base 2 of L. For example, if you are having NB is equal to 3, we will be having 8 different zones from 0 to 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, so on till 1, 1, 1. So these values will be assigned to different zones. For example, 0, 0, 0 will be referred to zone minus 20 to minus 15. So next comes the quantization error. When a signal is quantized, we introduce an error. The coded signal is an approximation of actual amplitude value. The difference between actual and coded value is referred to as the quantization error. So what exactly the difference between the actual to the coded value? So that defines the quantization error. The more zone, the smaller delta, which results in smaller error. So quantization error can be called as SNR. That means the signal with lower amplitude value will suffer more from quantization error as the error range is delta by 2. So we are having two approaches. The quantization level follow a logarithmic curve smaller than deltas at lower amplitude and larger deltas at higher amplitude. So next is compounding. So the sample values are compressed at the sender into logarithmic zones and then expanded at the receiver. So these two approaches will help in order to minimize the SNR. Bitrate and bandwidth requirements of PCM. So bitrate we can compute as NB into Fs. So where the bandwidth required to transmit this signal depends on the type of encoding used. So what kind of line encoding technology we are using, depending upon that we have to set the bitrate. The refers to the previous section for the formulas. So the digitized signal will always need more bandwidth than the original analog signal. So for example, the human voice normally contains frequencies from 0 to 4000 Hz. So the sampling rate and bit rate are calculated as follows. So as I said before, the sampling rate is equal to 2 times the actual maximum frequency, and bit rate is we can have maximum sampling rate into, in order to represent each character or character, so we need 8 bits per sample, so into 8, that is 64 kilobits per. So next comes the transmission mode. How we can transmit the data using different transmission modes. So basically we are having two methods, that is parallel transmission and the serial transmission. So basically under data transmission we are having two categories. First one is parallel transmission and the serial transmission. So the serial transmission is once again classified as asynchronous, synchronous and isochronous transmission. So in the case of parallel transmission, so we can transmit the data in terms of group. So for example, the minimum number of the minimum bits within a single group is 8 bits. That means I can transmit 1 byte at a time. But in order to transmit under parallel transmission, we need to have how many number of bits we need to transmit, that many number of lines we need to have. So for example, the sender is sending this particular data 01011010 to the receiver. So for example, if you are having 8 bits that need to be transmitted and will be having 8 different lines. But in the case of serial transmission, so we cannot say that each and every application will be using the serial transmission. In some cases, there is a conversion from parallel to serial at the sender level. Once again at the receiver, serial to parallel conversion. So for example, if this is a parallel data and that is converted into serial, that means 1 bit at a time that can be transmitted to the receiver. So the 8 bits are sent one after the other. We need only a single line or wire in the case of serial transmission. In asynchronous transmission, we send one start bit, that is 0 at the beginning, and one or more stop bits at once at the end of each bit. For example, if you want to transmit 00000 so on, I'll append one extra starting bit as 0 and the stop bit as 1 in order to identify or in order to differentiate the informations. So I'll append one 0 bit as well as the either single 1 bit or more than 1 bits at the finishing end of each and every information. Asynchronous here means asynchronous at the byte level, but the bits are still synchronized. So in the case of asynchronous transmission, the start bit is appended as 0 and stop bit is appended as 1, and so that we can differentiate the data. So for example, this data if I am taking, so I consider the starting bit as 1 and stop bit as 0, so that I can get the actual idea about which data or which zeros and ones belongs to which particular data. In synchronous transmission, we send bits one after the another without start or stop bit or gaps. It is responsibility of the receiver to group the bits. The bits are usually sent as bytes and many bytes are grouped in a frame. A frame is identified with a start and stop bit. But in the case of synchronous transmission, what we are doing is, so we'll group the information into frames, and in order to identify which message belongs to, or which information belongs to which particular data is left to the receiver, and to the frame, in order to identify, so we'll add start and end byte. So this is the direction of the data flow, and this is the single frame, so we can add start and stop bits at the frame level. The last one is isochronous. In isochronous transmission, we cannot have uneven gaps between the frame. The transmission of bits is fixed with equal gaps.